Fli-City got some dogs in it, dogs in it. Fli-City, authentic. We light it up like sauce in the sauce in the soup. We light it up like sauce in the sauce in the soup. Fli-City got some dogs in it, dogs in it. Fli-City come off authentic. We light it up like sauce in the sauce in the soup. We light it up like sauce in the sauce in the soup. Rain may come, we cover for it, it's a cover charge. Pain come in, we force ourselves to be stronger for it. Northside slum, prison bids, and I'm better for it. Representing Fli-City, now make some noise. Random corners, pushing packs, looking back, hand ups, ain't seen no pass. Fli-City got a city tax, body bags, ski masks, crime rates, I speak to God. City giving rich vibes, beat knocks, we speak a box, we don't speak a lot, just move around. Water dirty, streets dirty, whip clean. We're okay, we grew up on survival schemes, riding dreams, Lion King, the jungle seems like peace to me. Struggles led to victories, now picture me 6 months out, I'm on my feet, on the business, talks with Maddie, on the business, run the city, leak with all the owners in it, minus since we bless the city with our agenda, hustlers, open finish, all ideas is open to us, just push it on the business, run the city, leak with all the owners in it, minus since we bless the city, south side, east side, west side, peace signs, we try to get this city, so get west side, north side, south side, east side, west side, Fli-City, that's south side, east side, Fli-City got some dogs in it, dogs in it. Fli-City come off authentic. We light it up like sauce in the sauce in the sauce. We light it up like sauce in the sauce in the sauce. Fli-City got some dogs in it, dogs in it. Fli-City come off authentic. We light it up like sauce in the sauce in the sauce. We light it up like sauce in the sauce in the sauce.
My city experiencing the transition from penny pinching, maximizing our dollars, multiply triple digits. I came a long way from baby jars in a project kitchen. Nowadays I read grab charts and just mind my business. All praise to the Most High, how this young king living. Resurrecting the spirit of Osiris, how I'm living. Hustle and motivate your local hope dealer. I'm on tour right now, and I'm dope with it. They lied to us, stole assets, still in crisis mode. Water warriors like 1,001, we will not fold. I'm sick of fugazi leaders and career politicians. The father said people perish due to lack of vision. It's time to rise, black lives, baby, it's on the flow. Bet it back, no 9 to 5, only 10 to 4. A city of monsters, a bunch of go-getters. We don't rock with starters, we too authentic. Authentic starters, we too authentic. We don't rock with starters, we too authentic. Authentic starters, we too authentic. We don't rock with 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 starters, we too authentic.
That's it. Yeah, you keep all that.
Good evening, our community. Again, this is an installation of Fli-City Blackout. And again, I'm host, one of your co-hosts. I haven't been here for a while. I've been a little under the weather, but you know, a real human being is not never out until, the Creator take me out. So I just want to say good evening to our community. I miss you guys. So this is your brother, Hubert Naeem Roberts, checking in tonight.
Yes, sir, man. We glad to have you back, brother.
Oh, yeah.
I'm trying to tell you, man. The brother is definitely, man, a soldier of the struggle. I'm sorry, I just got a little something going on with the internet. Definitely, man. I think more or less, I just greatly appreciate just having a soldier out there on the front line, man, and having you back in the mix.
Oh, thank you.
Come on, thank you.
Really appreciate that. And I think when you say that, we had talked about that yesterday with the children. We got to be more responsible about making sure we're giving each other flowers. We talked about that a little bit last year about how we need to love on each other as men, really encouraging each other and telling each other that we love and care about each other, and giving other either the fist bump, and if you're not afraid to die, a hug. So, I just want to put that in there.
Oh man, that's valid. And that's valid. And that's giving our flowers while we're here is something that we changing the game on, man.
That's
we
right.
we ain't waiting until you're dead and gone and talk about all the good things you did, man. We're gonna talk about it while you're here, you can hear it.
That's right.
So man, definitely, man. And you've done a lot.
Yeah,
Put it down. Man, I'm following up, and hopefully I can say the same later on down the line.
That's right.
My brother. All right, man. And I'm WWIII Robinson, Royale. I'm sorry. Just young brother from the mix, trying to make it happen. I think, I appreciate just being around a bunch of substance. That means a lot for me. I'm living and learning every day, trying to apply myself in the best way possible, leave something behind, better than how I found it. So that's all I can contribute to, and that's all I got. Man, I'm just thankful for everything and appreciate this platform for getting to it. And so, nevertheless, man, we got a special guest in the house with us today. Man, the brother's been on the front line, whether you want to look at it from the community standpoint or even in actual wars, right? Just a good brother, good solid brother, for the culture. Very knowledgeable about the stances he believes in. And we're going to dig in today, man. So let's give it up for Mr. G.F. Grundy II.
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you, baby.
Yes, sir.
Is that cool? We call you GF, or you want to give me your full name?
Well, it's George of Grundy II.
Okay.
Just make it short for when you're doing it on print. It's GF Grundy II.
Sounds like a law firm, but okay.
Hey,
Not
well,
like it do.
I'm not a businessman. I'm a business man.
Okay,
So
Business.
it is what it's going to become. And I'm thankful to be here. I appreciate you all allowing me to come on the platform and believing that I'm interesting enough to talk with and speak with. That's a wonderful feeling.
I think especially because of your background, having military experience and what's going on now in the world, we need to have some real, and we like to be bringing facts.
That's right.
And again, we don't like to be just coming off the top of our heads because we're working to build this platform where people find this where it's enlightening, it's educational, and it's something that they can really stick some glue in that what we're saying and bringing to them is actual facts. So that's why we definitely needed you on this show, brother.
Man, I echo those same sentiments. Talking about dropping facts. A lot of times in the world of fake news, you got to make sure you know what you're talking about. So a lot of times, we put a lot of effort in our craft and what we're doing, what we're talking about, the message that we like to put out there, and hopefully it makes sense for our viewers. So, it's an honor to have a brother like you on the set, man. So let's dig in, man. So
we really want to get into a little bit of breaking it down in layman's terms. A lot of times we get engaged in conversations about, understanding conflicts and what does it really mean to our everyday lives, right? So this Ukrainian situation, we want to give some historical context. We want to put some fiber around it and some energy around it. And then how does it really affect us every day, right? When you think about, the conflation of wars throughout history and what is the purpose of wars and what's the meaning of wars, and then what's going on specifically. So that's since it's a hot topic, not to say that poverty and racism is not just as hot, but it's almost like war has become a fad. So we wanted to get in and kind of dig in that a little bit.
Yeah, man. So talk to us, right? Of course, we got this situation going on in the world today.
Right.
We all are aware of what's taking place. Russia is flexing on Ukraine, right? They just doing what Europeans is known to do. Let's be honest. I'm saying, always coming in, taking folks' resources, taking over the people, taking over their culture, and colonizers. As Black folks, we should know all too well about how this happens. So, what are y'all takes on what's going on? From the world standpoint, from the perspective of us being Black, in America, and what we see what's going on, from the ground levels.
Well, on a short term of it, or just a short statement, is before Baba Dick Gregory passed, they asked him what he thought about the last election cycle. He said it's over. He said it's over, meaning that the demise of the democracy in which we stand, or the republic in which we stand.
Mhm.
So there are some things to be heard and listened to and reviewed in that statement
Mhm.
that this man said before he passed. Now, what I look at it as is that every nation, we're the youngest, one of the youngest nations in this known understanding of system that we have.
Mhm.
And democracy is considered a term experiment. So if this is an experiment, experiments don't last forever before you actually do the applied science from the experiment. So we're looking at a change in the temperature, or a change in the direction in which we're going in the next 20 to 100 years, and maybe even sooner than that. And when it comes to the Russian system, you cannot. They've been through so many trials and tribulations and losses and gains that you can't underestimate their strategies and what they're willing to do in order to win on the long term of it.
Mhm.
So we can get pulled into something and think it's one thing, but realize it's another. They shut down, I believe, Ukraine about a few years ago, just to make a statement, letting them know that, hey, we have you right under our thumb if we want it. So if we're going to believe that someone that has a very long history with that government and with that system, such as the president that they have, Putin, he was in the secret service of that country, the KGB, and he's been the leader for so long, and he is a avid reader and studier of war and history.
Yes.
He's not a simpleton by any means. He hasn't been in power that long by just making moves that didn't make sense, by not having strategy. And he has the ability to be able to change. He's like a chameleon. He'll make you think that he's linear, but he has the ability to change when it comes to whatever economic means they use, whatever it is that they do that most people don't know about, with the relationships they have with other countries. And if we pull ourselves into something because we're trying to be the big brother or the hero of the situation, it's going to look like in games when Thanos snapped the finger.
What you think, Brother Robert?
Yeah, I think he said a mouthful. I think if you put it in somewhat historical context about understanding his character is on point, but also if you look at the dynamics against how can this country talk when it has been a bully from its inception?
Come on.
I mean, when you think about it, that's a drop the mic, and you can walk in the discussion with that. How can this country say anything about what Russia or anybody else does when they have been the arbiter of kicking doors in,
right,
taking people's wealth, and taking people, just killing people, man? If you think about the Iran-Iraq war and what they did with Gaddafi, and man, come on, brother. So again, from his perspective, especially being a military man, I think that's an insightful, observation that he just made about Putin. I agree with that.
Just to kind of stay on the topic of just kind of speaking on that. You're absolutely right. I think the West is in no position to tell nobody how they should operate and function, especially if they have showed this type of behavior over the past century. So for us, man, this is just the same routine. This is something common. So
to touch on that, and so when we look at where we at in this system that we live in, this is a European ran system, the construct, the thought process, and everything. So they did whatever they did, and they got a foothold and a strong hand in what happens on this planet. And we are living under that instruction and under that guide, whether we like it or not. So the hypocrisy of everything that we see as the people that have been continually in duress is going to be different from the folks that don't understand it from our perspective. And that's one thing that I believe us as American Blacks, specifically United States of American Blacks that were born and raised under that construct, need to look at it and know how to navigate so we can be effective when we make whatever moves to accomplish the goals we're looking to accomplish. Because if we don't, then we're always going to be look at what they did to us and what they won't let us do. When any kind of my time in the military, everything that people, whether it been individuals or my unit or the command, whether it was right or wrong, if they put something on me, I found ways in order to create opportunities for myself, because no one controls your destiny but you. They can put barriers in front of you and they can stop you on certain things, but they cannot stop you from your ultimate goals. Because if you are guided by created by God, then you're going to get where you need to get and or lead the path for whoever's behind you to get there. So I'm saying we have to, because we have a lot of pain. We have a lot of, what some people call church hurt. We have United States, America hurt. It's like Civil War.
That's true.
To every war that this country has fought, whether with itself or abroad, we have been a very important part of it. Period, point blank. And what needs to happen for us here is we need to let it be known that we need you, but we don't need you that much to say that you can't stop us from getting things accomplished. Our GDP, or not GDP, but collectively, the Black American dollar, when it comes to what we spend, it's like 1.8 or $2 trillion.
Of course.
I believe Russia's GDP is like 1.5 trillion.
Okay.
So we generate more annually when it comes to what we can spend than the Russian government.
You talking about just black people?
Just black people, just Black Americans. So if we wield that money correctly, then we don't have to ask anybody for anything. And then they'll be asking us, how do we help, or how can we be a part? Just like anything else we do. Anything that we do that comes from pain, hurt, and being broken, and we make ourselves whole with, people want to be involved.
Okay.
And I know I got a little off, but I just want to say our strength is in telling folks that the narrative is changing. The narratives has changed. When you look at the audacity of a person like Harriet Tubman that took several trips and several hundred people up to freedom and said she's doing it by any means necessary, like Malcolm X way, then that lets you know, under those kind of duress, or Frederick Douglass, who got himself out of slavery and also went to Ireland to speak to people about different things and so on and such, we have the ability that we need to in order to make the foundation that we want, because this country needs us more than we need them.
I think when you segue into mentioning about Mr. Douglass and some of his speaking abroad, at that time there were similarities in, different countries and people's struggle for freedom. Because I think if we really give a context to, it was Russia, the big Russia, and then they broke up in 91. You think about what happened to the big Russia, and then Poland and all Belarus and all them countries broke up, guys, because they East Slavic people. And if we get historically, like you say,
you talking about the Soviet Union,
right? So where did these people come from? When you think about, let's get back to the origin, because what is the mindset? How is Putin able to lay this down? Is it a similarity to Hitler, or is it a similarity to what's going on with January 6th in our country, with what the white people did at the Capitol? I mean, if you think about that blind allegiance or that fealty to insanity, I mean, how are we looking at it? I grant you about our spending power, but we give it all away. Our money don't last 2 seconds in our community, what little communities we do have. So that is an indictment on us as a people. But back to historically understanding about, what's really going on with this move, and how does it really affect us? And when you look at history, It tells us so much about today.
Mm-hmm. I think you both are speaking, on my for, and I think it's a lot that we can digest, right?
Mhm.
So when you talk about from the past, you talk about when the Soviet Union, you talk about when it was all one. That was the thing, but I think folks, even in Europe, have different, opinions, different cultures,
Perspectives,
different
yeah.
languages, different perspectives, right?
Mhm.
And it seemed as if the Soviet Union was a conglomerate of all those put together.
Mhm.
But then you had some of those smaller countries that wanted independence,
Mhm.
Right.
which I respect. And I respect independency. I respect you having your own and standing up for what you believe in, right?
Mhm.
And we should all respect that as people, human beings. And what I see right now from today, I see Putin is trying to revive that Soviet Union,
Mhm.
right?
He's trying to be a czar.
make up. Well,
Mhm.
he's trying to make up for some of that land and some of those countries that they lost. When
Like
it broke out.
Stalin. He's trying to do a Stalin move.
Hey, so he's just doing what them ancestors, have been doing for a long time.
Mhm.
So
And
you
I
wanna say
believe that Napoleon said that land you can lose and make up, but time you can't. So some stuff is a time thing. You put stuff in a time capsule and come back to it when you have the positioning. When you have a position, the power to do things, and the relationships that Russia has abroad, the things that their economy does that we don't necessarily marker. It is broader than our understanding. So they still move oil and move all types of resources
Natural gas.
that have nothing to do with the grid that we live on.
Right.
So they have a very strong relationship with China, which they have a different understanding than the relationship we have. We have a debt relationship with China.
Mhm.
Russia and
That's
China
right.
have a hey, how you doing, neighbor
Right.
relationship. Not I owe you, you owe me. It's a
Right.
mutual respect.
China doesn't respect the West. China is literally trying to make a move on the West.
Real talk.
China has America exactly where they want to.
Real talk.
You owe out, right? if I'm a country, right, and I necessarily eventually want to move on you, because this to be honest, this is how they move. These guys are really warlords, right? And it's all about power. When it
Period.
comes down to.
Power.
So when you are if you in debt to a country
Come on.
that wants to one day overtake you, right?
Call in the marker.
Call in the marker. Yeah, I'm going to build alliances with your enemy. The enemies of my enemies are my friends, right? So this is a playbook out of the art of war. And they have abstained from voting in the UN and condemning Russia for the acts they've done in Ukraine. And they're just trying to watch this play out. And what they want to do is eventually make sure that the West is weak enough for them to come in for the attack. So, and to me, to be honest, the West has done a lot of bull crap to a lot of folks, right?
Come on now.
You know what I'm saying? And I feel this is something that they brought on themselves.
Chickens come home to roost.
Chickens come home to roost. This is not something, and us as Black people, we look at it from a different perspective. When you talk about where we should stand in this situation, we should be definitely standing neutral. We should definitely be looking at how do we develop, but then how do we strategically put ourselves in position to leverage
that part.
And I'm hoping, even when you talk about on the African continent, but then also the Black people of the world, we all got to be in line with the African Union to be able to say, hey, you guys came into our continent and you didn't colonize our continent, and now you want to ask us for help. You do realize the U.S. is asking the African nation for help, right? They're asking those mercenaries in those different countries, right, to come out to stand up for USA. And if I'm on the continent of Africa, even I'm on the continent of U.S. soil, right, I'm looking at like, why should I help you? Why would I support your war? Why would I stand up for you even when you don't even stand up for the Black people in your own country?
Come on now, because when you think about it, from day one, every war, every excursion that this country have ever been engaged in, Black people have been there, and Black men and women in their uniforms have been lynched and killed.
Exactly.
And their American uniform, man. You hear me?
Mm-hmm.
You know, in 1863, they did a rampage in New York, killing every black person they could find. And you think about that mindset today, like you're saying about, you know, you want, you know, your proxies or your emissaries to go fight for you because you know, this country is laying back saying that they want to do the sanctions because, again, they have no leg to stand on because their history is garbage. Every country on the planet, to some degree, they done screwed with.
So let's
Right,
hone
but
in.
look here. The thing with that also is that you got to remember, you know, was 1927 and the creature from Jekyll Island. The central bank process was created for these type of events.
Right.
You know, so now that Russia's visual economy has been collapsed, it gives them a different perspective on how they can look and see how they move. So you can't do this. So now we're gonna see where your real money is, how you really moving. So I'm still looking at it from perspective of power and position, and when you're making decisions that are macro instead of micro, because we tend to have a micro look because we don't get to see the board the same way everybody else does. But when you're looking at it in a more of a macro thing, yes, the folks at the top that have position to have power, they look at it like, yeah, I had to cut your leg off in order to save the body. Right. I had to enslave you in order to make this money so we can have this country. Right. This is how they look at it. Some folks just look at things in a linear and proxy type way. So when we're talking about Russia and China and stuff, so the debt for us is also leverage against China because if we don't pay you, what you gonna do? You want to fight? Do you really want to fight? You know, or how do you want to move this? Okay, so so the thing is that we have to watch out is I believe World War III is already here, and it's called cyber war. It's the digital war. It's what we're doing when we're using our technology. If there are some sites, I'll get the site to pass to y'all so y'all can share it, and you can see the live attacks going on around the planet. And, you know, Russia is a major one that gets attacked. We're a major one. In this region, we get attacked a lot. In this Midwest region, we get attacked a lot. Without a doubt. And so we have to look at it also from the perspective of how, because we need things to work here too, so we can get what we need out of the system. Because in order to move forward, we're using the system to do it until we figure out another system or a better system or something that we can work parallel with. And going back to it is that, so we're being pulled, the world is being pulled into this conflict in order for, just like we shut down the economy to see where their real money is, they want to see how we moving, who's going to do what and how.
I think so, to that point about Russia getting those sanctions, and back to what Brother Roberts was saying too, America doesn't have a leg to stand on. And the reason why America don't all out go and do war with Russia is because the military presence and then also the nuclear bombs that Russia has. So if they have 6,000 nuclear bombs, that makes that a hard sell to go in your country and kind of fight with you, right? I need to re-strategize and think about this for a minute, right? And then to the fact that I really think those sanctions, of course, is crippling the Russian economy, for sure. But to be honest with you, I think Putin has developed and built a war chest and a relationship with China. So if they do need to go ahead and, hey, I need a bag, I need some money, right? My relationship with China, they'll be able to go ahead and suffice those funds that was lost, right? So I don't see the sanctions being, something that's going to hinder Putin and what he's trying to do right now. I think that he's going to full-fledged get this done, and they're going to have Ukraine here very soon.
It's just something to open the books just to see what's going on. But a country like Russia and a person like Putin, they knew that was going to happen. They understand those things.
Exactly.
They're not ignorant of how war is, because you're talking about people that have always been holding and maintaining the championship position of where they are.
I mean, when you say it in those terms, listen, war throughout the history of mankind, you can go all the way back to, with religion, man. As far as I kill you if you don't accept Allah, and Yahweh, and when you put it in the context of business, that's one thing I like to go back to Jesus, the story of Jesus, because the Bible can be complicated to some degree, but Jesus was a revolutionist.
Mm-hmm.
When you think about what he was doing with the Sadducees and those Pharisees, those were the people in power.
Mm-hmm.
And war is a business. It's power. It's power against power. And what bullies want to do is take and control power. And power is resources. So that's why I'm saying when you look at the context of the history, because Ukraine is one of the most populous countries over there right now, and is one of the most industrialized.
Mm-hmm.
When you mentioned about the cyber warfare or World War III been going on for 10 years, almost over 10 years, man. And when you think about what they laying down technology-wise, you know, a lot of times we be moving in the strip clubs and we be thinking, you know, drinking our, what do you call it, that Patron, and we don't realize they playing three-dimensional chess, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we're just little crumbs, right? Because at any time, just like you're in the military, they could tell you to go over there and your whole unit could be destroyed by an American made a mistake and said that you guys were somebody else and killed your whole unit, right? That has done friendly fire. You know, it has happened.
Yeah.
And it marches right on. It keeps going right on, right?
Yeah.
Because that's the whole system. So
And the system is built for acceptable loss also, you know.
collateral.
You know, there are certain things that you're willing to, like I say, you'll give up the leg to save the body or to win the war.
And so what is our purpose? And again, when you think about, you know, Americans of African descent, and I love what you're saying collectively about what does this really mean to us?
Mm-hmm.
And what is the value for us? I mean, and like you said, you were in the military, so you were under some, you know, brainwashing, because to be even going to the military, you have to be a little bit insane. And so I'm saying that in your face, not behind your back.
Understood.
And so, because my brother was in the Air Force and he's been damaged. He was an Air Force sergeant, came home in the 60s and wasn't right there ever since, right? Affected by Agent Orange. But my point to you is, so what could you give our audience as far as to make them understand, you know, why many of us go into the military? Number one, I know it's trying to get out the hood or whatever you think your existence is. And then what does it do to the mentality of a person to kill? Because it's not natural to kill, number one. It's not natural to kill.
Mm.
And so once you become a killer, what does that do to you?
Mm. So my reasoning for going in was I didn't want to miss the opportunity. I was 29 years old. And so that was at the cutoff age. And I my brother, my grandfather, I have a whole line of people that how you call it, insane. So I wanted to be a part of the party. And so I chose, before my time was up to do it, to go in.
Now, were you pressured by some of your family members?
Not at all.
Okay.
Not at all.
Oh,
my
so
mother
you
tried her best not to
talk you out of it.
Get me in there.
Really?
She wrote all kinds of letters to
Spares and
to
embarrass
embarrass me.
So she did right.
But I
Don't take my baby.
I still went and I still served, and I have no regrets in my time in service, because I did it on behalf of the people that I grew up around, that raised me, the country that I live under, and the things that I hold dear. You know, I have that's the beauty about being a United States American citizen. I have the right to feel, think, and say what I want to, even if you disagree with it.
Mm-hmm.
And I can still love you at the same time.
Isn't that a tremendous conflict? Because you think about it,
Very much
the
so.
war engine, and even with, you know, you guys did a lot of law enforcement work in your military experience, and you know, when you think about law enforcement in this country, and military was designed to kill, protect, and patrol white bodies. You know what I mean? And so
And property.
So you think about that mindset, because you know you got those stories about a lot of those different military camps that, you know, atrocities took place the way black soldiers were being treated. You know,
It's the epitome of cognitive dissonance.
oh,
So, you know, everything and most of the things that we do in this country deal with cognitive dissonance, and we are the recipients of cognitive dissonance more so than pretty much any population in this country. So yes, you have to make up your mind that you're going to ignore everything else that your mind tells you, or that your spirit tells you, or what you think, because your thought process is a higher calling, a higher cause. It's for those, family, freedom, and country. So
let me just be in too, man. I'm glad you put that on the table, and I'm glad you accepted and received it and came with a response. Just what I be saying for us, man. I know that I'm an African American. Since Jesse Jackson threw it out there like that, I'm an African American over here, right? I'm an African first. I feel that fighting for someone, for a country that never stood on grounds for us, man, is something that is a real discussion in the Black community. Because I know sometimes folks want to get out the hood, and I know folks want to do it to, protect the land and the country and the people in it, right? Because I respect those things, right? I just really wish we had that edge to fight for our community, right? If start on a small scale, on the local levels, right? If we had that same mindset that you have for the country, man, our community will be a robust place where we run, we operate, we'll function, and all the responsibility falls on the people in it. And for us, we got so many issues going on that we face in our community. We need all hands on deck. We need a military force in our neighborhoods. We need that training, that guerrilla marketing training, not the guerrilla marketing training, but that guerrilla training that you may have been the urban training, tactical training, right? We need that training for our people in our community so we can protect our borders, because we getting bombed out every day. And that's a real thing. So I hope, when we having these discussions and understandings that, the same love that we have for something else, we got to have for ourselves first.
And like my brother Darius, so we got brother Darius, a situation in Clio. How can we protect him, right? When you think about in connection to Ukraine, because even if you think about them sending $1 billion to Ukraine, what about Flint, Michigan? What we could do with $1 billion? They can find money to send to
wars, but they can't feed the poor.
Tupac.
Come on.
Real talk. So that's where that'd be a real stickler for me.
So for me on that is inclusion. We have to, it's one of the things that Dr. King, what Harry Belafonte said, that he said to him is that at the end of it, he said he felt like he brought his people into a burning house.
He did,
because of the integration part of it. But the thing that
which was bad for us, I think, we should always stay strong on our own.
It was horrible for infrastructure.
Terrible.
Because we already had an infrastructure. We just needed the respect and the ability to do it.
Leave us alone. Like Brother Robbie said, leave us alone.
It's saying, look, everybody, all other communities have infrastructure and they have inclusion within the system. That's the part that we have to do. If we do not get involved with running for city council, running for mayor, running for state senate, running for Congress, being a part of these corporations and things, or creating our own and making sure that the mandated set-asides that are available for us are given or are spent on us, then we don't have a leg to stand on, because economically, if it's in black and white, if the government said this is what it is, if you in the way of me getting to what I need to get, and I've served my country and I'm working for my community, and you saying, well, here's the bar, now here's the bar, and when I get to that bar, you move it further and further, then I not literally, but in some kind of metaphoric sense, I'm going to slap you in the face with paperwork, with lawsuits, with things that are going to cause you to understand that you are in the way of progress. And what people have to do is be on the side of progress. If you're not in this country and you're not on the side of progress and moving forward and having a sense of unity based on this experiment that we're under, then you don't belong here. It's not the black folk that don't belong here. It's the ignorant folk that don't believe in uniting and have a strong front of saying they belong here. They belong here. That's what this whole thing is about. The paperwork say they qualify. Now get out the way.
Well, I really got to push back on that, because I definitely disagree with you, brother George, because one thing that
and that's the beauty about the conversation in this country.
That these Republicans are laying down right now, white supremacy is real. When you think about any kind of progress, they don't want no progress. These people are serious about making sure that they maintain power. I'm talking about legislatively. We run around marching and boycotting while they making sure they got judges in all these lower courts, right? So when they need to manipulate the system, as you said, move the goalposts, they got it covered, man. At the lower court, the appeal court, they got it covered.
So that means they're in the way and they got to go. That means that we got to produce more judges, not more athletes. We got to produce more scientists, not more dancers and singers. We got to produce more of what is needed in order to fill these slots and to compete. Because even when we go to the competition, people are going to be like, well, they're here now. So we can't just hide our hand and play a different card because they're in the room. Asians are in the room. Hispanics are in the room. All these other cultures are in the room. We have coalitions that are sitting outside the door,
but when you mention all
but we are not in the room.
But when you mention about all those other groups, and a lot of them groups have been here, especially in any kind of form or percentage, a lot of them been here less than 50 and 60 years. If you think about the Chinese, the Korean, the Thai, and a lot of these different ethnic groups, and you go to some of their areas are tight. They're not being shot by the police. They on stores.
That's exactly what I'm talking about.
Name it. And you think about what we've done. All we continue doing, you just look out the window here. We continue to be jealous of each other, envious of each other, don't trust each other, won't build with each other, won't work and live with each other. And then we keep asking for the white man.
But let me hold that scenario right now, that viewpoint. But right now, we not doing that. We are sitting here in front of these folks, whoever listening, and saying that we are not talking bad about each other. We ain't agreeing on everything that we talking about. But if you violate him, you violate me. If you violate him, you violate me. And we're all going to come as a collective to let you understand that it ain't the same game. Yesterday's price ain't today's price.
Come on now. Come on. Listen, I like
that. What my elder tells me that he sees, okay, I'm going to take that and I'm going to eat it. And then whatever is not the meat, I'm going to throw it out because it's a bone. But my thing is that progress is going to happen, period. Progress is going to happen. And when it comes to other cultures, folks that like to, what's the term when they take what you got, but they don't want to give you credit for it? Like
steal it.
The outside stealing is called, I can't remember the term.
Plagiarism.
Something like that. But these cultures, like, you got to get the Asians a little more credit because they've been here. They built a lot of the railroad. They were put in camps and things like that because of Pearl Harbor. You know, there are a lot of patriots that don't look like us. There are a lot of people that have gone through some pain. They haven't gone through our pain.
There you go.
And they don't have the right to tell us not to talk about our pain. But I'm going to give them credit because when I was in the military, I dealt with so many diverse situations. I met a Native American or someone that was called a Native American on paper. You know, it depends on how the DOS rolls were in his bloodline. I don't know. But to me, he looked like a Native American. I say he was a Native American because he was listed as a Native American, an Indian. And he had the audacity to say that he believed that slavery should have still existed. So to me, that curved me. No, I didn't slap him. But it curved me. It hurt my heart because this man was closer to my complexion and looked closer to me than he did the other folks we were around. Okay. And you can say that. And you know what folks put your people through, and you can say that. But as I learned more and got more information, I learned that, Native Americans or Indians had slaves too.
There you go.
No. So even though people have pain, there was a lot of cultures that still took advantage of our pain to get to their advancement.
I mean, one thing when you think about the immigration policy of this country, when people are coming here from other countries, they have to go through immigration policy. And many of the policies teaching them to make sure that they do not trust or do any kind of business with us. Even Africans coming to this country are told to make sure they stay, the Nigerians and all these
Somalians.
They are told to stay away from Black Americans. This is part of the immigration policy. But I want to get back to this, man. I wrote this down. Listen, one thing about us as a people, we don't even own our birthright. When we talk about any conversation, our own names. My last name is Roberts from the Roberts Plantation. And you think about how powerful that is. And you think about when we think about God, when you can control a man's God, and many of us think of Jesus or God as white, again, that's almost like the end of the conversation because I'm going to move because I want to be white, or I'm so happy to be white because that's my indoctrination. And we can't remove that fact. I mean, we have to really develop those situations or institutions to retrain us from our brainwashing of cultural conditioning based on a European mindset. Even when you think about being in the military and what the military in this country has done from day one. If you really think about it and real hard, guys, you know, this country was minding its own business and somebody came and took it. These people, native people, were here minding their own business. We was on the continent of Africa minding our own business and they stole us. And so today we think about Ukrainians and what they're dealing with. And many people in conversation say they don't care anything about it. It doesn't matter. They flow on with their lives. Because when you think in the context, one person told me that's white people's business. Real talk.
It is.
It's white people's business. You know, one of the reporters from BBC was like saying, these are Christians. And look at the babies and the children. And this doesn't happen. This is not Somali. This is not Iraq. What is going on? This is a European country. This is not supposed to be happening. And she was just appalled. Her bigotry was just on display.
Right.
And again, that's how they think, because in many aspects, as hard as we try, we keep trying to be accepted by some people that will never accept us. I think that is what's critically when you think about progress.
Yes.
And I think it's got to be a real, and I do believe in progress, don't get me wrong, but I do believe that power does not concede. It doesn't.
Understood.
Power don't concede, bro.
I think that's overstood. So just kind of going, I want to change gears a little bit, right?
Before you change.
Okay.
So just the three kings. So that conversation about the direction and what people want to be. So you got Marcus Garvey, W.E.B. Du Bois, and then Booker T. Washington. They all had different conflicting viewpoints and what they saw and how blacks should move. Now, the differences you could look at Booker T. Washington and say that he wanted to be white based on how he was moving, but he wanted to be successful, and he was. He figured out how to move in a very volatile situation and keep the money up. W.E.B. Du Bois said, look, we want to have a level playing field, and you need to give us a level playing field. And he fought for that level playing field. They founded the NAACP and so on and such. But what happened at the end of that? He didn't have the same economic base that Booker T. Washington did, and he didn't have the same economic base that Marcus Garvey had. And he ended up moving over to the continent after he did not get the continued support of the folks that he was trying to fight for. So all three conversations are legitimate.
Right.
None of them brothers wanted to be anything but who they were, and they wrote it in their memoirs and in their books and in the things that they did. Even though they moved a little different. So I believe we have to get out of that mindset of stereotyping ourselves, because I don't care if somebody has the look or the sound of a proper European education, because that person is a gatekeeper for the person that I may raise up to be able to get a job or position or become a congressperson. We have these folks that fight these hidden battles. We have these hidden figures that they get crucified by us because a lot more of us live a urban and a pressured lifestyle than others. But the ones that are looking on the outside said, I was raised different and I had a little more resources, but I still love you. You still my people. But why you treat me all bad? And I had to learn that myself. When I moved from Flint, I thought that if you were young, this is my literal thought. I thought if you was under 25 or whatever, and you was driving nice and had stuff, you was selling dope. Period. I went to Atlanta and I thought everybody was selling dope. Okay. And I had to evolve in my thought process. I understand, you from here, you from Utah. There's black people in Utah, you know, so on and such. And once I understood a little bit more, even when I got to the military, because I'm black all the way through. I'm a light-skinned, dark-skinned dude. In my mentality, right? I identify as a dark-skinned Swahili speaking dude.
Come on now.
So come on. But all that being said, I had to learn how to navigate because I dealt with a lot of racism in the military. But those same guys that were flying their flags in their dorm rooms, the Confederate flags, and saying all kinds of weird stuff and asking me weird questions, we became some of the closest friends. Now, would I go down to Kentucky or Tennessee or Mississippi and just,
hell no.
But
Yeah.
these same guys would tell me, Grundy, you're not like them. I'm not like who? You're not like them. But I am them. These are little roars coming out. I am them.
Yeah.
Just because we don't speak the same or act the same, that's my brother. Just like that guy over there is your brother because you look at him and y'all look similar. So there are some conversations that have to be had. I had some of those same guys that were raised for generations to dislike people that look like me, ask me to come to their homes, ask me to become part of their associations. Like I was talking to Dewan the other day, had one, he said, you need to come and join the Sons of the Confederate, man. We'll love you down here. I'm like, I don't even understand how you even formulated that question to ask me that.
Right.
He had so much admiration for me standing up for who I am and what I am, the things that he saw in the people that he knew that were a part of that. In his way, he thought I was the same, but we just have different viewpoints. And I'm saying that's the beauty and the devastation of our country is that we have the ability to do that. We just have to grow as people because I love being me, but I love the people that I've met along my journey too.
I think one thing, the one you want to change.
And I apologize.
Y'all on to something right now.
Dewan, don't stop talking, George.
I think I really wanted to challenge you again.
Yeah, I think y'all.
When I make the statement about, it's exciting to be white, and when you use the term with Marcus and all of those great black men.
Yeah.
My focus is to jar our consciousness because overall, the patterns that we have seen throughout our history have been devastating when it comes to how we haven't really rallied around one another to protect one another. With the destruction of the Panthers, we think about Nipsey Hussle being murdered or Young Dolph, those kind of things should not be happening because there should be some real solidified unity. If anything like that getting ready to pop off, somebody even thinking like that has to be shut down.
Come on
because
now.
That's the power of us not turning in on one another. Because that's another thing is a history and a byproduct of this insanity that we under in this continent called the USA. We are traumatized. We have been brainwashed because every item of success have been based on a Eurocentric understanding. If you think about housing and cars, if you think about music and everything, although we are the epitome of fashion, talent, and swag, and they have stolen everything from us, but even when
appropriated
everything, I mean, you think about it. At one time, there was the barbershop quartets. And you had those black guys in the barbershop singing, and then here come the white guys singing doo-wop. And then they want to call jazz jackass music. I mean, when you put those things in context, because a lot of times we think about it in, like you say, the micro, when it is the macro. Because even those brothers, Frederick Douglass, he made a statement. He said black people didn't need nothing coming out of 1865. And I had an issue with him stating that, because he too was meaning a little insane to me, because how you going to be from 1861 and then 1863 free, and they're going to say, well, figure it out, and you don't give me nothing? But all these other immigrants that came over here and got land, 1,000 acres of land. Right. They didn't get all this, right? They got, we working in the house, domestic workers and working in the field, and we can't even buy Social Security. Right. That was the Roosevelt administration, the New Deal. And so when you think about redlining, meaning why do our communities look like they look? Intentionally, it's done intentionally. We move a lot of our so-called Negroes that want to be white, they move to the suburbs. They move out and say and complain about their cousins and sisters, brothers. But if we had those resources in our communities would be looking like Fenton. Right now, the north side would be the place to go. because we have thousands of business on the north side. If we was really doing something in Flint, we would have never let them drop the bomb on St. John. I'm from the St. John village. I was raised in Chicago, but I was blessed to be in the St. John village. It was a beautiful village, man. And they dropped the bomb on it with the expressway. Mott Foundation, Mott Plantation, they spent their private money along with the federal government from Eisenhower administration to make first that expressway was going to go over on the east side. Those east side white people said no. And they brought it right down to the black community. See, and that's what happened all around the country. Because when you dispersed us, we were unified, man. St. John, Floral Park, because we were segregated. There was only certain places black people could live in Flint. And they was making money. A lot of them couldn't read or write, but they was making some money, bro.
Hey, I want let's kind of zoom in on this, right? And I appreciate the dialogue that's been taking place, right? You know, it's a lot of perceptions going on, but a lot of understandings is being developed. I think that too, right? When you're talking about black people, I think let's talk to us right now, right? And where we stand, looking at the Ukrainians and how they were able to stand up for their own country, even being outnumbered and outgunned, seeing that they had the resiliency to say, you guys are not coming into our community and we're not taking the land down. Even if you kill all of us, right? You know, we're going to come out on the street with sticks and rocks and we're going to stand up for what we believe in. Now, that's commendable. That is super commendable. And one thing I had a problem with was how our black people over there in Ukraine is being treated as it relates to them getting out, right? For one, our black people are not fighting in that war over there, right? Our people are trying to get back to Kenya, right? Because they was only there for study. That's it. And so, but what I say for us as black people, just in general, black people in America, black people on the African continent, we should see this as something to say that we have to have this in us to fight for our own communities in our own countries. We have to have that about ourselves. We shouldn't let dictators like the Hamas come in and spend millions of dollars to bring freeways right through our communities, right? We shouldn't allow our neighborhoods to be looking so ravished like they do here in the city of Flint, right? And all this buildup going on downtown. You talking about 20, 30 million being pumped in one space like the Capitol downtown. You could have put $20 million over there on Roof Street and over there, you know, just kind of developing land and building up properties for the homeowners that were still over there, right? And so I think for us, this should be something like a learning lesson. And I'm glad that we're having these conversations because it's putting stuff on the floor. We're talking about the brilliancies of our past leaders, like i.e. Marcus Garvey. Marcus Garvey was a legend. You know, Booker T, I appreciate the brothers and his efforts. And W.E., all the same thing. And they all had different philosophies and they was just like different vibes. And that what we have in this community today. We got different vibes, different brothers who may came up with more resources than the other brothers, right? The other brothers that may not have the resources, they carry that strength, right? And it's something that we have to embody. For a long time, we felt like folks in the street didn't have the opportunity and people who were in position looked down on them. So that's where you look at now people who are in the streets who coming up and becoming strong about their situations from the grassroots levels, and they embody the struggle of the movement. Those people in position, they need those folks because they won't get nothing done without them. And so we have to do the uncanny job of breaking down those barriers within our own selves. Like you were saying, George, I respect that, right? You know, you appreciate the brothers who went off for higher education, right? But the thing is having the mindset of understanding of pulling your community up, right? If you in position, if you able to do some great work, if I done got degrees and I'm able to go ahead and be at a foundation and work a job where I can go ahead and allocate some dollars towards some efforts that's going on in my neighborhoods that I come from, right? Then I'm going to be a crusader about that, right? And I'm going to grab some of these brothers that's in the street or these brothers who may not have the necessary resources. I'm going to pull them up by the bootstraps and be connected with them, right? And we work at this as one. And we have to be strategic enough to have a plan of action for us. And I'm not talking about that city master plan. We have to have our own black master plan that we develop that's going to really address these issues that we face on a day-to-day basis. So that's the thing that I'm hoping, that come out of this. Don't be all empathetic about this stuff going on in Europe. It ain't got nothing to do with you, right? Let's focus on what we got going on down the street. I'm looking out back here in the backyard right here, man. It ain't nothing but land and opportunity. We on North Saginaw Street. We in a building that's occupied by many of blacks, right? We should be thinking about, okay, for one, what's our strategy for protecting our perimeters, right? Because I don't think we have these real dialogues. Instead of sitting up there drinking Patron, smoking weed, watching Love and Hip Hop, right? We should be thinking about, okay, let's research our great champions of the past. Right? When you research Marcus Garvey and what he attempted to do,
Right.
the type of resources that he had.
Come
You
on.
talking about the finances, when you talking about the organization, you talking about ships.
Ships.
The brother was talking about going back to Africa.
Come
He
on,
had the
man.
logistics.
We have lost our way when it comes to say we don't even think that we came from Africa. We don't even
Right.
think that we have any relationship with our folks from
At
Africa.
all.
And when you were talking about that foreign policy, that shit made my blood boil. About how, you know, they would take Somalians and people from Africa, you know, our Saudis, and people come over here for education, but try to do commerce and build business, that they have to take this stupid test that these Americans want to give to make sure that you are actual American. And it's maybe 50 questions, right? Whatever, right? But it's some basic garbage that was built up on that we are forcing people who have no understanding about what's going on over here, and we giving them a false perception. We have to be like, okay, we're gonna step on all that. So anytime that I do run into a Somalian or I do run into an Ethiopian who has a business, then I am building and I'm having relationships with them, because you know what? They are looking for you. They are looking to have a relationship with you. They are looking to build with you. They are looking to see what's going on in these black communities. See, we haven't stopped and broke the cycle because we still brainwashed. We have not. We still fighting with each other about peanuts, right? Yeah. Nobody got nothing. Right. So you sitting up here, you're trying to go ahead and demean each other and fight with one another and think that you're better than this person because you wear a suit, or think that you better than this person because you have a doctorate degree, or think that you better than this person because you didn't kill 4 people. I think it's a thing of saying like, no, you know what? We all play a part in this machine. We are one big machine. So from our intellects to our folks who bring in the force, right? To our young people who bring in the energy and the geniusness, right? We have to make sure that we catapult all this synergy, right? And make this make sense for us moving forward, because if we don't see no vision for the future, then we're going to die in this war too, because what the heck are we doing? And I do want to make sure that we pin that, because one thing for sure, I'm sick and tired of being in these situations. Yeah. I don't, and it's probably why I've been a little running off the edge a little bit, because it gets like that. It gets to you, right? I'm tired of feeling like we on the bottom, and I know we're not in the. I know, because I know who we are. That's right. I know that we not bottom feeders. I know that it's much more to us than we have been given, and so I just want us to take it upon ourselves to look at everything going on in the world. Think about the history of the treatment towards us. Who has been on our side and who has not? Who has conflicted us and who has colonized us? You are capitalized people. When I say capitalized, I mean captured people. We have captured people in a war, just like some of those Russians in Ukraine right now. That's right. We have to fight back. We have to be willing to die. Political prisoners. We are political prisoners. We have to be willing to die, and we have to be willing to go ahead and tell our stories to be able to make sure the young generation, right? This is who we fighting for. We're not fighting for this stuff no more. I could care less about this going on over here in America. What I'm saying is I would like to build a better relationship for our brothers and sisters on the African continent. I would love for to strengthen our internal affairs with the African Union and their governments. I want us to be able to establish a government for us here that's independent from the Constitution in America, because that's how other ethnic groups operate. Like you was talking about the Asians. The Asians have finances behind themselves, and you see how fast they was able to get that Asian hate bill passed. We still crying about a George Floyd policing act. And we've been killed and mutilated and murdered all through the streets. Nothing happens when we act. And this world is built on the taking. You have to be a taker. And so I'm just saying, in a way, we can be strategic takers, but we have to go ahead and take what we want if we ever get to see anything in our
And
lives.
then we got to move collectively.
That part.
Yes, sir.
So this process of war that's going back to Russia and Ukraine, it's going to affect our communities the worst when it comes to the point of geopolitics, the geopolitical process of it, where the inflation and all these different prices and things go up. It's going to affect us the most because of the margins of the income. Even though we have a large amount of money that we spend, you know, a lot of folks in our community are check to check folk. So,
You're right.
and when you're going to the grocery store and you look at meat, I look at meat and I'm like, I'm not buying that today because I'm going to go with the ramen noodles because this meat is crazy. So that's going to affect us the most when it comes to this. So those are the type of things we have to think about. How are we going to be affected when it comes to these type of things? The money part of it, because the you know, regardless of who's in office or how good the rest of the country go, the hood always looked like the hood.
And so when
You know, and we have to be very mindful of those things. The other part is that the collective, going to the religious piece, is that, okay, slaves didn't want to be nothing but free. They didn't want to be white. They wanted to be left alone and not beaten and not abused and not raped and not crucified through the things that they were going through. So what religion did, it was collective thought. Their mind was on one thing, gathering together and saying that we have a goal. They didn't care whether Jesus was whatever color he was or anything. They just wanted it to be real, and they made it real through their efforts, however great or how small they were. So what we have to do is find that common denominator for collective thought to move forward, because that's what other cultures do. They have a collective thought. They have a hide mentality. It does not matter about anything else. This one thing is what we're going to stick to. You get outside of that, you out the group.
I like that, and holding accountability for that. I like that because the problems that we see are so massive. We're dealing with stuff on a day-to-day basis. Like, you know, it's kind of hard when it's 24 hours in a day and you're looking to go ahead and work 8 of those hours, if give or take. And you also have a family that you have to provide for. And then you have some things that you want to do individually, like you're so wrapped up, right? But if we can say like this, when you talk about the problems that's mounted against the Black folks, when you're talking about public health, I mean, I know we were just talking about these issues of how we been facing our health, right? Due to the social determinants of life, you know, it caused us to have high blood pressure, diabetes, and all these other things, right? Because we was getting the scraps and we been eating that stuff, and we turned dirt into diamonds. It still tastes good. I still like it, but let's be honest, it's gonna kill you after a while. But the thing is, too, though, when you talk about it, it's a mountain of issues that we face on a day-to-day basis. But if we can minimize that down to 1 to 2 goals, right? We can say this year we're gonna get these 2 things accomplished, right? One could be getting these folks' foot off our neck, right? And then 2 is establishing co-ops all throughout Black communities, right? That's just some simple stuff or whatever, right? You got 2 objectives that we want to do. We got like 100 that we have to address. If we can minimize it and we can have a group plan of action for each other, and we are doing these things and everybody buys in from community to community, and we all have these 2 things that we're going to work on, it's a strategic plan. We will be successful. And once we see those things that we accomplish, then we move on to the next, right? So that all goes back into us properly planning. And these conversations kind of gets us in a mindset, and it always start with how we think.
Two things. Question. What city was it that Black folks stood up or sat down and said, we ain't agreeing with this redlining no more?
Tulsa, Oklahoma, 1921.
And where else? Where else did they?
Greensboro, North Carolina, Wilmington, North Carolina, Colfax, Louisiana.
I'm saying more recent with when Flint had to sit down at City Hall about the redlining.
Woody
spending your money where you want to.
Okay, yeah.
Flint, Michigan.
Right.
Flint did that, yes.
Flint did that. Flint, Michigan did that.
Big shout out to Woody Earthly and everybody who played a part. Floyd McCree was a rolling up.
I'm saying this to say that everything that Mr. DeJuan Royal X Robinson is saying, it needs to start here in Flint, because Flint is the strategic place for this stuff to happen.
Mhm.
Because who had the strongest union in this country when it came to the unionized worker? Who?
UAW.
I'll wait.
Yeah.
Flint, Michigan,
Mhm.
Local 599.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Peter Jennings and them talking about some kind of shutdown. Who were the people that was running that shutdown?
They were the dogs.
Flint.
Mhm.
Right?
Mhm.
So the thing that has been destroyed is unity, is consolidarity of people of this country. So when you tear that down, then what is everybody else going to do? Because they don't know what that look like.
Mhm.
That's why we can still stand in these rough times, because we understand what unity looks like. We understand what pain looks like and how to get through it. Because when you say we can't live where we can afford to live, when you say that we don't need to come together and say that you owe us more than what you paying us, and so on and such, so many different things, had the highest economy in the country at one point in time for Black folk.
Mhm.
That's why it's important for all 200, 300,000 folks that's out there that came from Flint, Michigan, from Flint Northern, from Flint Southwestern, from Flint Northwestern, from all the Central, from all the schools that's out there, and you making 200,000 a year, you making 500,000 a year, you doing good. You got kids going to Harvard and going to Columbia, and you got an extra 500 or extra dollar. You can send it to the organizations that he's over in order to see. I dare you to see if we're gonna make it happen. I dare you to support and see if we're gonna make it happen. Because if you came from here, you know how it is. We didn't talk about nothing. We did it.
That's
right.
And the people that's on this panel and in this room, we still do it. We're here. It's all Black men in this room,
Mhm.
and we about it. We got a lot of issues, but guess what? We are here physically doing it, and we don't agree on all the same things, but we agree we got to move forward.
Come on.
So
man.
I dare you
Come on.
to do what was supposed to happen when the South came to the North and started working. Send your dollars back here and see how we make it grow.
Mm.
That's strong.
And to your point in the South, though, that's why Black people have a stronger economic presence in the South, right? A lot of Black businesses in the South,
Yeah.
right? So, and I appreciate you even saying that, man. It is unity, and I think it's communication. A lot of times we fail at communicating with each other. It's not about hollering and screaming at one another, but just really having talks for clarity.
And I think when you say that, we can't dismiss the fact that it was intentionally done to destroy it. When you think about the Teamster and Jimmy Hoffa never was found, as you said about the UAW, all those entities were designed because if you think about it, after 1861, you got 1863. And then at first you got Black people building and doing everything. In 1863, no Black person could do any job. You had to be in the union, and they weren't going to let you in no union, right?
Mhm.
So now you get to, like you just said, with the Great Migration, and you said earlier about business,
Mhm.
one thing we need to really be clear about, the power that we do have as a community.
Yes, sir.
We must echo this, and I think that's something we don't do enough.
Mhm.
The Black community, man, is amazing and awesome. If we would get out of our own way,
Mhm.
because we want to have blonde hair. We got young men who want to paint their fingernails. I mean, when you think about some of the mindset, what we see with these young people ain't playing.
But
These
that's all
young people
programmed.
if
Yeah.
we could guide these young people, because they got some heart, we can put some nuclear bombs on these young people and send them in some areas and they make it happen. But they need to be directed
Right.
and guided, because with that kind of fearlessness, they got that fearlessness,
Yeah,
man.
right. Mhm.
Because they've been treated so bad.
That's right.
3 generations of crack parents, crack mamas, daddies in prison. Come on, man. And when y'all think about it, and I love what you said, Brother George, because if you look at, and that's why history is so important. History is a profound indicator of today and tomorrow.
Mhm.
You talked about progression and change, because once you understand what was done and was successful, you reinvented for the day. That is not rocket science. That's how you do it, man. It's almost like cutting a pattern in this shirt. Okay, this is shirt been designed, so we're gonna pattern for us today. You know what I mean? And we're gonna tweak it so it can have an impact today. Social media is what happened.
Yeah.
So we're supposed to be, across the board. How do we manipulate social media where we can be moving as one? We're gonna say we're gonna shut all these stores down.
Mhm. Yeah.
We're gonna shut the NBA down, the NFL down. See, that's what we're gonna do, right?
Mhm.
We're gonna make sure that you got 1% of Negroes that are getting big money, then most of the other players are not getting nothing. Some of the guys getting $4,500 a week, right? That ain't no money. And they don't last 3 years.
Support Deion Sanders.
Oh, most definitely. And so when you think about the
Yeah,
context,
he is holding it down.
yeah, but the context of, understanding where do we fit in the micro, because locally, I was down at City Hall Monday dealing with the North End food market. It got so insane that they had to put handcuffs on Murphy and Worthy and walk them out of the building. And they never did vote on the food market. And then you think about it, we asking them for $3 million when collectively there have been enough athletes that have left Flint, Michigan, they should donate that $3 million to get that store started. You know what I'm saying?
Have your corporate sponsors donate the money. It ain't got to come out your personal pocket.
Oh, that's right.
Regardless of any, we need that store built.
Oh, most definitely.
We need that store built, and it need to maintain in the control of the people.
And back to what you're saying about even with the corporate, there's been so much money that came in community foundation that has not been accounted for. How do DDA? How do Capitol Theater? How did that hotel and all that stuff get built? But then we asked some money for the North Side. They can't. They want to fight about it. Eric Mays and them, they just argue. I was there at 5:30. You know, I didn't leave at 9 o'clock. It was so painful listening to them argue. It hurt I was embarrassed, y'all. And again, that money is owed to us. That's the same thing with that rescue money. They down there just playing games, y'all, and it is unacceptable.
So who is it, or who are the people or the organizations that we need to have on the panel in order to ask the questions so they can answer the questions for the misinformation we have, and to get the direct answers and to get them to get on the path of doing right by what their money's supposed to do? Who do we need to call out right now?
That's a good
organizations.
Do we need to call out? Okay. Do we need to call out? Because I think that's a two-pronged thing. We need to call out those organizations that has handcuffed us from really moving forward, right? I.e., just mention, when it comes down to it, all these funds that came into the city of Flint through the water crisis, right? Now we got millions of dollars sitting in the coffers today, right? And we still fighting about what to do with the money. But we have had existing problems since we can remember, since I was born into this situation.
Come on now.
The same stuff it seems like we talking about. So how do we hold those accountable organizations who are not doing nothing on behalf of this community? And then how do we as people take the lead?
Yes,
because obviously ain't folks saying they're not doing it for you. It's a do for self mindset. What can we do? What options we got?
And when you talk about the options, it's the same thing that you said about Floyd McCree, Woodrow Stanley, Worthy, Tucker. What did they do? Again, that's our pattern, because again, it's got to come from the grassroots. You get sick and tired of being sick and tired. So it's got to come from the grassroots and from the people. How we going to collectively move with one voice and one body. That's how it's got to happen, man.
And that's the collective of the body. But even with that, there are signatures that have to sign off on certain things, because everything that we do, has to have whether you write a grant, you got to sign down at the bottom that you wrote the grant correctly, or you got all the information in it, or whatever it is that you're doing in order to move without your business and organizations. You have to have some signature on it. You have to have a stamp of approval. So who are those gatekeepers, either that don't realize that they're not doing what's needed, or just purposely in the way? Who needs to be spoken to? That may not be something that we can answer right now, because we
can answer, because
I'm saying it needs to be something constructive, so folks will come down here and have the conversation with DeJuan and with you, so we can get answers. And once they tell us what the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is, we can put that down on paper, move how it needs to move, and go and get the results that we are looking for.
Nothing moves in Genesee County without Ridgeway White. Okay. He's the mafia leader. He's the plantation owner. Nothing moves in Flint without no kind of money, no kind of project move without the My Foundation saying it's okay.
And how do we sidestep that? You right? Because I'm sick of that dictatorship. How do we sidestep that when you talking about working with other nonprofit organizations that may not be in this community? Or how do we raise the funds ourselves? Like a lot of times you got to get in position yourself. You can't, the most powerful folks, they didn't ask for that stuff.
Nah, I wanna feel like devil's advocate.
I'm just saying, I just want to put this on there. Like, when do we have the resiliency in ourselves to say that we ain't got to ask for nothing? You just said we spent $1 trillion annually. So when do we say, all right, well, we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna fundraise ourselves? We got folks who got some money. And even us out here on the board, right? You know what I'm saying? We may got a few dollars to throw towards the board. Like, when do we get into our mind to do for self, to fund our own initiatives that we control? And we don't have to have folks where we go write a grant who may try to deter us from doing the real work that we look to do.
Yeah.
It's like sometimes you got to say, I got to be in full control of this. Like, I got to self-fund this movement, meaning that I got to go out and get the money myself.
Understood. So that's what us in this room, we do that. We support each other, but we still ain't got enough.
Oh no.
And we still ain't got enough, and we still got to keep going. So let me play devil's advocate. Okay, Ridgeway, does he really know or understand? It's pretty much rhetorical. I don't want y'all to start attacking because I wanted to be devil's advocate to give the system the opportunity to answer the question, because the community is listening and they're going to be sending out replies and he's going to hear this. So does he really know what's going on? Does he even understand how to maneuver in this climate that's going on in the city? Is all of the money that they've been putting in here doing what they thought it was going to do? I know they have the school they wanted. They've got some other things done and figured out how to maneuver some money to get some things done. But do they have an agenda that they don't know how to help the certain parts of this community?
Oh, well, that's intentional. I love what you just said.
I'm saying go to it so we can get specific, so we can check what that intentional part out and cut that cancer out.
Being specific.
I mean, they are very intentional about what they want. You saying about what Ridgeway may not know. He does have those Negroes that keep him informed.
Mm-hmm.
And they make sure that those Negroes are gatekeepers to make sure that they make sure that their area that they want to be funded, they give a green light. The other areas, they say, don't touch the other Negroes, right? I mean, this is what is going on at that level. At that level, what you talk about, George, is a lot of hate going on.
But why is that? Why? Because
you got black people in position. You got black people in position in Flint, Michigan. Isaiah Oliver, that is not going to do nothing without the permission of Martin.
Come on now.
Don't get it twisted, brother. You got these people down there in these different places and all these that look like me and you. That will not, let me just say this, that will not go against their masters. Now, let's be clear about that. And then when you think about it, and do you think Ridgeway know about it? Ridgeway live in another dimension. And so again, throughout the history of this plantation called Flint, Michigan, it always have been the haves and the have-nots and the few Negroes that was able to trickle in and get something done. Right now, when we got to try to write grants now, you got to make sure you don't make it black. It's got to be so neutral that you got to look at it like it's got to say, well, it's just for disadvantaged purple people. Real talk, George. You can't. It cannot be designated for nobody black.
Think about
you can't put black on there.
To that point, think about even the Black Lives Matter movement. Like they are purposely trying to not give that movement any more light, right? Because all the advancements that was made. So you absolutely right. When you try to write a grant for funding to get some dollars, and you can't even use the word black, it's really put you at a disadvantage, but then it also does something to you intellectually. Like, right, I can't even say black. So meaning that even if I try to do something for the black people that I want to do stuff for, that I'm writing this for others, writing this for all, being inclusive, and then my action go be inclusive. So I might not really directly impact what I really wanted to do in the first place, right? Because I have to stay in these confinements of the criteria. And that's where we get into, when you're talking about the Moss and folks who have the bags, who have the money, who have these gatekeepers, who you have to go see to go ahead and get some dollars for the project that you want to initiate. That's where we have this situation. We have a problem with those folks that look like us. That's those gatekeepers. We needed them to be spooked by the door. We didn't need y'all to be down there, cozying up to the Mots and cozying up to all those folks downtown. That's just not what we needed. And that's kind of like what we talked about earlier. We talked about folks who went on, got greater education or whatever the case may be, and got in position. However they got in position, they got there. Well, we needed you to play the part. We needed you to go ahead and continue to not forget where you come from. Mm-hmm. Them same folks who would be down at them levels downtown, claim that they from the area, claim they from the neighborhood. But them same folks ain't seen that neighborhood in the past 10, 20 years.
Okay,
ain't, so ain't seen it, that line. But never even thought to say, how can I help activate the space where I came from?
Understood. But this is us throwing out that line. I know Mr. Oliver is going to have a response one way or another on his platform or whatever. I would love for him to come and talk to you face to face.
He probably going to say that at the board meeting. I would never know what happened.
Regardless of anything, I would love for that dialogue to happen so we can figure out how to start doing the terminology to get what we're looking for, how to go about and properly maneuver, because certain things, certain protocols, whatever. I don't, my experiences with Mr. Oliver, I don't know him to be a bad person or somebody that hasn't done right by folk. I've heard different things, but I don't know him as that. And I'm saying he's still a brother. So my thing is, how are these olive branches going to grow a tree? Because we're throwing out olive branches because of frustration, because of what's going on. So when you frustrate and you say some stuff, either an ignorant person is just going to respond with some kind of ignorance, but an intelligent person such as himself and others that are in position that are currently and going to be listening to this, y'all have the opportunity to help grow this tree so we can reposition how this system is working. Even yourself, Mr. White, I know you're going to be hearing it through the grapevine. So if you really love what's going on, if you really love this community in the city, or then let's come to the table, have a conversation. But if you really want to gentrify it and you really want to see us gone, then we'll know it through your silence.
When you mentioned about,
I'm just saying, let me say it real quick. I'm at the point where I'm just like done with the lip service sometimes too. I think folks is really looking for some real action. If I haven't eaten in 3 weeks, then I don't want to hear you come tell me about, hey, maybe in the next year or two, we can get you something to eat.
I agree.
So what I was just say is, I understand your position. I appreciate your standpoints, and these are our brothers and sisters that's out here in this community, and that's for sure. But we have to have a real family conversation as it relates to where we going, right? Because as the way that we've been going thus far, we going a whole bunch of nowhere, and it's just dividing us all around, and people are not really staying or holding true to these values or these Black values that we stand for. And so it needs to be some real cleaning house, some real conversations. And we even add this. We talked about Jean-Jacques Dessalines, the Haitian ruler back in 1804. The whole point of his thing was saying, sometimes you got folks that may look like you, but they're not working on your behalf.
Right.
You have to go ahead and address the collaborators. So when I say address the collaborators, we have to address those brothers. And we don't got to be confrontational. We can go ahead and go in a room, lock the doors, and have some real conversations. And whoever come out of there, hopefully we make it make sense, right? But we got to stop that. It's got to happen. Listen, it's like it gets to the point where you hear the same stuff for so long, you don't want to hear it no more.
Right, but we're coming from a different position. This is not the same kind of conversation on how it starts. I
get that, but what I'm saying is, like,
to get done. The resources are there. Let's get some 24-hour, 72-hour, 6-month progress.
I respect that. I'm hoping, being optimistic, right, that we can come to tune on that, and hopefully that takes place. I don't want to be pessimistic and nothing like that. I ain't trying to shoot nobody down. Trust me, you know what I'm saying? But I've had conversations with these same folks. I done sat at these tables and been at these meetings. And a lot of times, them people could care less because they worried about what they do in their careers and their advancement. And you just got to be honest.
Because it's about receipts. Receipts don't lie. And that's what history does. As you said, Brother George, about a different type of conversation. And it is important for us to have a conversation so they don't be confrontation. But again, when you have a mindset and a mandate, they have mandates to make sure the game is played a certain way. And only a few are able, see, they have us fighting against each other. See, they sit back in Flushing and Bloomfield Hills and Grosse Pointe, and we entertain them by the action of the city council and the devastation of the north side, and those Negroes don't want anything. And again, those gatekeepers have to be addressed and held accountable, because they are the ones that can go outside of their cultural conditioning or their training and say, I am going to support Black people. I'm going to support Black businesses. The Chamber of Commerce here in Flint, Michigan is ran by my foundation. Every aspect of Flint is ran by my foundation, just like a plantation. And it's not to alienate anyone, but if you don't speak truth to power and you have no power, what's going to make power listen to anybody with no power?
Yeah.
Because the proof is in the north side. If we look at the north side right now, and you look at downtown, they'll still spend over $1.5 billion downtown. Like you just said, Mott wanted a school. Took them a year and a half to build the school. They still haven't built the Old Man's Temple. It's still incomplete. That was a club. And that's been going on 4 years, man. Mott built that in a year and a half. Show you what money can do.
Is the Great Lakes Technology Center open?
Great Lakes.
Down the
It's
street.
the tech center and
Across from the
from
cemetery?
from Graceline Cemetery. If it's not open, whoever
I don't know.
whoever's the fiduciary of getting that open needs to reopen it, because that's a community asset, and those kids need to have access to technology.
Yeah, that was
Period. Point blank.
Yeah.
And for me, even though I'm saying I'm coming from a viewpoint of let's have dialogue.
There's nothing wrong with it.
You know, and I get that. I want it to
Right,
be understood and known that I'm saying that because I am prepared and ready and have no problem with war. But dialogue is always, and the peaceful part of it is always the best part, because war doesn't make sense for anybody. Nobody. And so the thing is, you're listening to the folks that are in the dirt. DeJuan can tell you about how all the stuff we talked about. I can personally tell you how the things that I was doing in the city and getting ready to bring a bunch of revenue to the city had been on par. But that's a story for a different day. And I ain't talking about no little money. I'm talking about like the same kind of money that they spend in downtown. And just with my connection with what's going on. But that's a story for a different day. So I'm not talking and saying, oh, you know, I'm not the being Uncle Tom and saying, hey, I'm gonna stay with the slave master until he die and get saved. No, I ain't with that. I'm saying we're supposed to be Sambo.
Right.
We supposed to be a collective, and if we're a community and a unit, then let's work as one. Because I don't have any plans on getting gentrified out of this community.
Can you really say that and you go home every day to Grand Blanc?
Who?
I'm just asking the question. Can you really
I'm about to say I don't stay in no. I'm staying.
No. I'm just saying.
4503.
He said that.
Can a person really?
You try to put you out there with the Graham Lake.
No. I didn't mean that. I'm saying, can a person?
He said what? I'm just with him.
I digress.
I'm talking about anyone. If you think about any person of color, leaves Flint and go home in Grand Blanc every day, and don't come back until they come to work the next day, and don't come in on the weekend. Can they have an affinity for the city of Flint?
Yes.
Okay.
I believe it's called what was the word I used earlier?
Cognitive
Cognitive distance. It's a certain. This whole country is built on that. We have a certain way we think. We have love for what we have love for, and some stuff we just don't want to deal with, even though we love it. And it's the way we think. So we have to get through this matrix of how our minds have been bubble gummed all together and get to the point of the matter so we can make stuff happen.
And you would say that there's no love on the north side.
Economically, there's nothing to be said for us except for it's being prepared for whoever they want to move into the community to be able to get the money to refurbish it, which are, in my opinion, are people of other cultures, people from other countries. And because, okay, you it's the transition on how it goes. You have your white flight, then you have the blacks move, stay in there, and then the property values go down, and then all these things happen. Then you have the gentrification. So what is gentrification? Is when folks of other cultures and country colors that are not consistent with that community base start moving in. So if it's an Asian community, they start seeing Hispanics. If it's a Hispanic community, they start seeing blacks. If it's a black community, they start seeing whites. And it's like, where y'all come from? We still fighting, and our businesses are still here. My grandparents' house and my great grandparents' house is here. Why y'all moving in and raising up the taxes and making it seem like we not here?
You know, they can already build a state-of-the-art $2 million cannabis dispensary at the old St. John Center. You know, they started building it. Did y'all know that?
No, I didn't know. Now, who are the people that's behind that?
They from Dubai, one of them countries.
Okay,
Qatar,
so
500,000.
And look, the folks that they ain't getting no pass either. The folks that own the grocery stores and all these convenience stores, y'all need to give back to the community too, because you taking all this money for the liquor and the cigarettes and all this other stuff. You know, clean your lots up, spend some money in order to empower the situation. Don't be calling me brother and hey this and all that, and you don't have no true love for me. All you got is that you want to use my community and move on. You know, I would much so rather spend my money with folks that look like me, but I can only spend it with who I got.
And I wish, you know, that's one thing I wish our community would have done, especially with those preachers, because that right there is something that we shouldn't allow. We shouldn't allow those stores or gas stations to be open, even when they destroyed St. John, even when we migrated. We should have made a point back in the 60s and 70s not to allow those immigrants to come in here and get a foothold in those businesses. Grand Store, Luster Store, all them Sims, all them stores should not have been allowed to let those foreigners come into this community and get away. Do you know the number one black business in the world at one time was the number business? We created the number business in Illinois. It was the number one business in the world.
Yeah.
And right now, they still will not give anybody a forensic study about where that lottery money. Do y'all know a couple of weeks ago, they shut the lottery down like they used to do back in the old days for that 222 and 222 number. They literally shut the machines down where nobody could bet on that, guy. That's the mafia. That show you what they doing, guys. And you can never get a forensic readout about where they tell you the money is going to the school. But have y'all ever seen a black person that is driving the lottery tickets, meaning the scratch-off tickets when they put them in the machine? Have you ever thought about who does that job and how much does that job pay a year? Because that person goes throughout the state in a truck or a car distributing those tickets.
Slips.
That's a job. Not the slips. I'm talking about the scratch-off. You know, they got about 40, 50 different scratch-offs from $30 all the way down to $1. And they have them in like trays, lock trays. And they go throughout. I'm just saying, have anybody ever thought about how many black people work for the Lottery Commission at any level? No, we've never thought about that. That's something that should be researched, because I bet you there's a tremendous disparity in, because it's almost like a secret. The lottery is almost like a secret when it comes to where the money going. Because nobody today, about 10 years ago or 15 years ago, Flint was trying to get an audit from the city council was trying to get an audit from the Lottery Commission, and they never got it. The city council,
is that because they just didn't provide the insider information?
They wouldn't give it to them.
On what grounds?
I can't blind that, tell you what grounds. I don't remember that. But they they cannot get an audit.
I remember that's been a conversation for a long time, and we still haven't got the information.
And I bring that up to even codify my whole position about what power does. Power doesn't ask questions. Power does what it want to do.
Come on.
And you're going to like it or not.
And to that point, right, you know, as we close this segment out for today, what is our next steps? You know, when you talk about what's going on nationally, down to locally, what are we going to do about where we stand And then after all the war is over, because like you made a mention about how it would impact us. What is our plan of action and strategy of moving forward based on this war, what's going on in front of us? And how do we position ourselves to leverage to become a superpower again?
I think one
It's a
thing that
few-
we got to do as Black people, especially Americans of African descent, we
Mhm.
got to do a real paradigm shift
Mhm.
across the board, man. We gotta either eliminate those Negroes that want to act a fool like Floyd Mayweather and Kodak Black and Beyonce and Jay-Z and Yee and all them people got to be eliminated because they're part of the problem. Meaning, we can't deal with them anymore because it's got to be about collectively building our communities where we are self-sufficient. One thing that's getting ready to happen in the next 2 or 3 years, guys, things are going to get real, real rough. And it's going to, to survive, you're going to have to be resilient. And I think, we need to start having some real honest conversation, not confrontations, but, we need to start moving in together, buying real estate, buying land, buying buildings, buying roller skate rings. We need to have our own liquor stores, our own gas stations, our own grocery stores, our own car washes, our own nail shops, our own hair stores. All the things that we use every day, we need to own them. Everything that we do, wherever we pee or boo-boo, we need to own that too. Just keep it real, man.
Summing it up. No, you're right.
Whatever we use, guys, if we go to the movie, we need to just build a little movie house and just start with that. Start small.
Yeah.
Because again, that's how you be creative. If you say we got a group of people come together and the church is huge, church don't have that many people, and they put up a big screen. Let's say on Sunday after church service, that's gonna be the movie house. How we can make these big churches be multi-purpose? Because you faking up there anyway, running around with tongue, you talking in tongue, and you still out there bending over back and being sodomized. So that's my answer.
Y'all stop bending over backwards and being sodomized and open up them churches, man. What the heck? What you got, Brother George? How can we get ourselves in leverage and be in a better position? Because I see this is a prominent time for Black folks, and we got it in us. We've done this before. This ain't nothing new. And how can we connect to our African Union? I keep driving that force to connect it to the African Union because that's our force. What will we do, and what's some strategies that we can do to get us in position?
Well, the conversation starts first. When I was active duty in the Marine Corps, I had me and one of my buddies, one of my relatives. We were going after natural resources in a country and on the continent. And one of my Marine Corps buddies, his relative was on. He was like the agricultural something or another. He could write off and say, hey, y'all can mine this plot of land, or we can do this, or whatever you want to do. We're willing to do trade. We went after that. We got all of the yeses through the conversation, through that country's government and everything. We just couldn't find the resources. So resources is a big thing. We in our community have large dreams. We have huge ideas, and we don't believe in failure. We'll find a way to make something happen. But even with those thoughts and those processes, sometimes the results of success don't happen because we can't get to the resources. So we have to have those conversations. Everybody's got to get at the table that wants to do something, that really wants, say, look, I don't care what you think about me, how you feel or whatever. I'm gonna come to the table because I got $5 million to invest. Now, if we can come up with a plan, I will let that money be invested. And it's as long as the plan going, there's gonna be no restrictions. We have to come to the point to where we understand, we think, look different in our concepts of how we were raised and where we're from and things. It's a lot of hurt in our community. A lot of hurt. A lot of Black men hurt a lot of Black men because we couldn't see each other on the same level because of where we come from in our stages of life. But we're only going to move forward if we come together, if we have this collective thought. And I'm saying that we have to get into government contracting. We have to know what PTAC is, PTAC, the procurement offices, which is in the Mott Foundation building, along with the Chamber of Commerce is in that same office. So what they do for free. They teach you how to go from zero. If you have a janitorial business, or if you are a painter, if you're a general contractor, they'll show you how 0 to 100, how to go from having nothing to doing bidding on contracts with the federal government, with the state government, with corporations. That will change. If you make $100,000 a year, once you go through PTAC and know how to bid on contracts, you can make 10 million next year. And Flint is a hub zone, that's $1 billion business by itself, in itself. And when it comes to government contracts, 20% of all government money goes to set-asides. What are set-asides? Set-asides are minority-owned, women-owned, veteran-owned, disabled veteran-owned, hub zone, and so on and such. These are things that we can do that can create money that nobody can talk about, because it's not if, it's when. It's not if, it's when. When you do these processes, they can't stop you from getting the success that you're looking for. Now the thing is just making sure that we got the right people in place to teach you the information, which I believe the right people are down at PTAC right now to teach the information, that are willing. I believe in my people. I believe whether they like me or not, I still believe in you. And I had some of y'all do me dirty, but so what? I still believe in you. So PTAC's one thing, government contracting, that's one thing. Then the collective understanding. Okay, we got too many. At one time we had the most churches per capita in the country. The most churches per capita. That means that we got churches on every corner in the city of Flint. When you got somewhere in Los Angeles, ain't even got as many churches as we got per capita, or in New York. But we all praising the same God. So there needs to be a collective awakening of the churches, and saying we need to sit at the same table and figure out how we gonna help each other, instead of you got your big, nice, kind of nice looking church here, and you got your little tiny church looking here, and you can't figure out how to help each other out, because you say in the name of, in the name of, or you switching up the words, and it's the same book.
That's good.
Y'all are the ones messing things up, because you got people's collective thinking off.
That's fire.
I agree with
Fire.
that.
In the word that we look at, Jesus died for everybody, didn't he? So let's come together as the everybody that Jesus wants us to be.
I agree with that, man.
Okay, same thing with the Muslim brothers. Same thing. We need to collectively come together.
That's fire.
Malcolm and Martin got together.
Come on now. That was a powerful.
They didn't show all that and showcase all that. They had conversation.
That's fire.
They don't tell you about what Martin Luther was really about. You're right.
So I'm saying that, Mr. Oliver, I don't have nothing against you, but you are that guy. You sitting on a lot of money. I don't know if they controlling you or not, but I don't believe so, because I don't think you built like that. But I would love you to have a conversation with DeWine, so because he's in position to do.
They controlling the brother.
I ain't gonna put that on you, bro.
I'm going.
I want you to respond.
I'm gonna say, come on
I
down.
want you to respond.
Come on down and sit down and talk.
I'm saying, and there's others that I could put out there, but we put that name out there. Mr. White, I don't know nothing about you, but I hear a lot of different conversation. If you want to change the narrative, and you look and you want to get out of the shadow of whatever it is you were taught, and you think there's a better way, and you want to do a better way with people, have this conversation and be prepared to write the check.
Come on now. With that being said, man,
so this is what I'm saying. to do these things, if y'all really want to be Flint and a part of Flint and say y'all Flint just like we say it, then let's do that. Let's come together and do that. Y'all, I'm transparent. My background is what it is. You can say what you got on me or whatever. It doesn't matter to me. I'm still gonna stand up for myself and for my folk.
Let me close out. We're gonna Monday. Again, we're going to be at Southwestern. Need you guys there at 7:15. We're going to be greeting the students, as we always do. We greet 5 schools every Monday. 1 school and then 2 schools on some Mondays. But we need our community to come out and give a child a smile. Give him a fist pump. Tell him he's great. Tell him love him, man. Just show our children some love and respect. It goes a long way. So this Monday at Southwestern, be there at 7:15. They start letting the kids in by 7:30. So we need you guys to be up, get out of bed, get your coffee. And if I'm feeling better, maybe I'll bring y'all some coffee there if that's what you want.
And then one last point too.
$20 million.
Yes, sir. But also too, you know, we are at Southwestern as well for the Rites of Passage program
That's right.
on Wednesdays. We asking all the, you know, you brilliant good brothers out there, you know, who want to love on these children, man, because they love us and they need us. We just ask you just come on out. We ain't asking just for your time, maybe an hour, right? And like brother said, we can come greeting in the morning on Mondays and then come back on Wednesdays to kind of for some more contact, man. They love and appreciate that. You'd be surprised how they light up when they see some real folks coming in who really appreciate them, man, and trying to work with them. So let's make sure that, you know, if you can make that on your schedule, we appreciate you. We thank you for everything. We are doing our Juneteenth celebration in 2022. We are meeting on Mondays at 6:30. Or no, it's not 6:30, it's 5:30, excuse me. That information will be sent out for those who are interested in being part of Juneteenth in Flint, Genesee County, right? This is coming up on 40 plus years as we continue to keep it going on and giving reverence to our ancestors who was before us. So we thank you, everybody. Yeah, you want to make it?
No, go ahead. You
Go
the
ahead.
boss.
Go ahead.
So okay, so real quick, I'm gonna be coming on. DeWine has brought me on board, and I'm gonna start doing interviews. So if any of the people that we talked about don't want to talk to DeWine, y'all can talk with me. I ain't gonna dog you out. I'm gonna listen, but I'm gonna ask you some real serious questions and want some real answers at the end of them. So we're gonna start doing that on Tuesdays.
Yeah.
So I'll be interviewing all kinds. I don't care who you are, what you are. If you got a story to tell, let me know and we'll work it out.
Let's go, man. I appreciate y'all, brothers. It's been a phenomenal session, as always. You know, that's how brothers talk. Brothers gonna work it out. Shout out to all our queens, all our young people. Appreciate Mick on the back end holding down the board. BLL, Fli-City Blackout, A1 on News Media. Counting out. Blackout.